right, welcome back to the Evolution with Mac and Jenn podcast. This is Jen, and I'm here with my incredibly handsome and amazing husband, Mac Grant. And today is his birthday, but we're not gonna probably not going to air this on his birthday because that's today. But today is his birthday, and we're recording on his birthday, so we're super excited. For that, he's 32.
Right.
And so that's really exciting. So today we are here and we're going to talk about fasting because we just experienced a, what do they call it? Like an extended fast. And so
Yeah.
we wanted to share a little bit about that and our experiences and just what we learned, what we know, and whatever else comes out of our mouths.
Yeah, and I'm gonna talk about some things, not just fasting. I'm actually more focused on the deprogramming and reprogramming of cells and how you do that with fasting. So like a lot of what we do has to do with manifesting higher energy, all those different things, and like how to make your life work better. And one of the like if you really want to speed it up, fasting is one of the things that can really make massive changes very quickly. And so I'll go into some of the details on that. But
Well, okay,
before I
so
do,
first, yeah. So
yeah,
first, just like basic, like what is fasting and what types of fast? Because we do like intermittent fasting
mhm.
and we do you like a
Well,
24-hour fast.
like technically fasting is would be considered removing anything from anything. Could be your diet, it could be your life, it could be, different things. But it could be as simple as like I'm going to fast from carbs. I'm going to fast from protein. I'm going to fast from like it could just be a singular thing to say, you know what, I'm going to cut out all dairy. I'm going to fast from that or whatever. But typically when we're talking about fasting, it if I refer to fasting, the most often it's going to be water only. It's not going to be like this or that or anything else. Like I go as strict as I can, and it's just like water only, preferably the water from one source, and I'll explain that as we go. But it becomes very fundamental. Or you could even do like a dry fast, but that is a little more challenging for the purposes of like, at least if you have water you can fill up your stomach. So that is my reference. If I'm usually talking about fasting, that's what I'm going to talk about. That makes sense.
Yes. Awesome.
Okay.
So sometimes we'll do intermittent fasting, which is what?
Intermittent is your day to day. So like a 16-hour intermittent fast would be you finish eating, let's say 8 o'clock at night, and then you go till noon the next day before you eat. That's a 16-hour fast. And so that's what we call intermittent fasting. Now, usually if I'm doing intermittent, it'll be closer to 20 hours. And the goal with intermittent fasting is that you start sometime at night, because when you go to sleep, that's the most optimal time for your body to like kick in and start doing the things that it does, as far as like can start it uses up whatever energy you ate. Once it's used that up, then it starts looking for the cheapest resource, which means the easiest to access. And so any glucose or anything in your system is going to be the easiest resource it's going to use up. Once it's used that up and depleted it, then it's going to start accessing things like your fat cells, preferably. Now, in order to kind of use that up, you still have to have a certain level of nutrition, unless you go on these longer fasts, in which case then your body's going to just start using what it can. And it goes through the stages of like how it uses and what it uses to get there. And so for a lot of people, when it comes to intermittent fasting, you wind up in ketosis, right? Like the thing everybody talks about. Not very many people know like actually what's happening, but you go into the ketosis of that through that intermittent fast. And so you're getting more fat burning capabilities. Not only that, but you're using less of your vital energy. So if your intestines, typically when you eat, most of the energy that you're getting from the food actually goes back into the intestines to process the food that you ate. And if you eat shit, then all the energy is going to get used up. And that's why a lot of people, when they eat, they get tired. Yeah, it's not like a food coma is not because you got a full stomach and you feel good. A food coma is because your body now now I need all the energy to process the shit that you just put in it. And a lot of the food today, especially in the US, we're like one of the worst countries out of any of them. Most of the food we put in, especially like grains, like starched flours, bleached flours, like in just pretty much grains in general, are very hard to process for the gut. Preservatives, processed foods, all that stuff, very hard for the stomach to process. And so that tired that you're feeling, outside of like maybe turkey or something, but it's actually that your body is having to use up all the energy you just used up. So you're like, oh, I need to eat. Actually, you don't. Like that's kind of the lie, I guess, of it, because we just did, well, she did 3 days, I did about 4 days, and just as much energy as ever. Don't really need that extra. It's even when it comes to water, some people would be like, oh, you need water like after 3 days. No, you actually don't. Your body can actually make water. Water is just it's H2O, right? Like 2 hydrogen molecules and 1 oxygen molecule. So when you're breathing and the way your body functions, you can actually collect that hydrogen and oxygen that you need to make water. And there's research studies showing that certain fasting things, like I think it's Ramadan is one of the things, when they followed people doing that, which is a 20-hour dry, or I'm not exactly sure how that works, but I know there's studies done where these guys will do like 20-hour dry fasts, and they'll be more hydrated ending the fast than when they started the fast. And then they'll rehydrate, eat, and then do it again over and over again. And it becomes very, very effective and beneficial, but not really easy because of what's going on up here, right? Like I need this, I'm addicted to this. And also there's certain things in the body that can be happening as far as like if you have candida or parasites, the parasites will trigger things inside you to tell your brain, I have to eat, right? So you might be, oh, I'm addicted to this. Well, I mean, kind of, but if you have candida survives best on sugars, like flours, carbs, that type of thing. So it wants you to eat all the shit, because that's what keeps it alive. It's essentially a parasite. It wants fed. So it's going to try to do everything it can, and it has the ability to know how to trigger things that goes to your brain that then triggers the hunger. Then you get the impulse, and now you're going to drive yourself crazy unless you're very set in mind to say, okay, no, this is what I'm going to do. And we can talk about that. But just to reference the intermittent fasting part of it, it's just a window. It just says from here to here I'm not going to eat, and from here to here I am going to eat. That's intermittent fasting. So.
And I think a lot of people do intermittent fasting nowadays because it's just kind of like the thing to do, right?
Yeah, the fad.
And what is why do people do it? Is it, would you say mainly for like a weight loss? I know when I do it, it's like I feel like just healthier, weight loss, more energy. I just feel better when I do intermittent fasting. But why? Okay, so a lot of people do intermittent fasting, but why would anybody want to do a fast for longer than intermittent? Like, why would anybody want to do a 24-hour fast?
First, you asked the question of like why intermittent fast?
Yeah.
Or why do people intermittent fast?
Yeah.
More recently, it's because it's been publicized, right? It's newest greatest thing. In other words, somebody that was really good at marketing sold it for weight loss. Typically, that's going to be your mass market. You still get your health nuts and everything else where they're watching and following and everything else, but it became a fad because everybody picked it up and said, oh, this is gonna solve my problems. And then it works for a few people, and then some people it doesn't, and then some people say they're doing it, they're not really doing it, they're snacking, or they're destroying what they're doing. So it's like they eat like shit, but then they intermittent fast for 20 hours and then wonder why they don't get the result.
Like you intermittent fast, and during your window of eating time, you're eating cake and cheeseburgers and pizza.
Like, well, even if it's not that bad, but let's say you intermittent fast and then you go to McDonald's and eat McDonald's. Like, you just put so much shit in your system. One, your guts aren't going to absorb that shit, so you get no energy from it. and your intestines now have to work overtime trying to figure out what to do with it. And so a lot of times the nutritional efficiency of the stomach is blocked off by the crap, the plastics and the junk that's in there, let alone the toxins, the chemicals, all that stuff. And then somebody will be like, okay, well, I'm eating really healthy, and they eat like a salad with a bunch of beans and greens and everything else. Well, when you do that, you're taking in too many like legumes that aren't properly cooked, and then it triggers different things in your body, and you'll actually maintain weight or gain weight. Like there's a lot of different things that you kind of need to understand when it comes to how this works. There's also a difference between summertime and winter. You know, the more vitamin D you get, the higher energy you're going to have, the easier it is for your body to process certain elements and things. Whereas in the winter, when you're not getting as much vitamin D, that's typically why people are probably naturally a little more sleepy. Like it's easier to sleep in the winter. It's because your body is doing its job, making up for the lack of vitamin D in the winter by using sleep. But if you're not sleeping because of some shit in your system, how good's the intermittent fasting going to be? And then here's one of my big things after I kind of figured this out and said, okay, I'm intermittent fasting. I'm, like I tried I've tried the vegan thing. I've done the carnivore thing and back and forth. Now carnivore works for me. And it just is way better when done correctly. However, one of the problems that I had was I would intermittent fast, which means I would eat organic, grass fed, and I'd get all this in my system. Then I would go to sleep, and then I would wake up, and then my body would be using that, and then I'd go into ketosis. But I would just keep working so long that what was happening was that my body would start using a resource that was easy to get to, and that was lean muscle mass, right? So because there's a certain level where your body won't go after the fat depending on how much insulin you produce, all technical shit that I can't really explain real easy. But then I would eat a big meal of a whole bunch of protein and fat and whatever that's good for me. But because of this process that was happening of checking this box, then it would go after this, then it would go after this, and go with this, and then get the big meal, it would spike my insulin again. And so I'm like, okay, so now I'm working against myself, even though I'm eating clean, doing intermittent fasting. And so what I had to do was actually start eating. I would do like a 12-hour fast, but then I would eat a bunch of meals, smaller meals, so that I wasn't spiking my insulin, but yet I was still taking in enough to not burn up my lean muscle mass. And so there's a difference. Now, if you're 20% over like body fat or more, then you're probably not as worried about using up muscle mass. It's less likely, still possible, but there is a strategy. And so I'm going to back up even to like before we all thought we were too smart and figured out that, hey, we can do this and that and make foods and grow out of season foods that actually aren't best for us in that season or whatever. So when you kind of go back to like pre-shipping, farming, all that time, typically they didn't, you don't have a fridge. Okay. So you can't just go get food all the time. You in the winter, you killed your food. It didn't grow, it was winter. So you're eating meats, and you're eating them not very often. You're not just snacking, you do whatever. You have a job to do. You wake up, you do this. So it's natural for our bodies to go long periods of time without eating and then feast, and then not eat and then feast. Or you might feast for several days, and then you go out on a hunt and you have very little, so you got to kind of take some of those things into mind. As far as back in the day, you might have ate once a day, unless you were really doing some physical work. Then you would know, okay, I need more resources, and what is it? But not including some crazy winter storm or some this or some that, just your natural life. You would get up, you would do your thing, you would somewhere in your day probably eat, maybe not eat. It just depends. But we're so jacked up in society of how to get it now that you're not going to know where you're at until you start listening to your body. And when I first started kind of got to this concept. There's a book by Wallace D. Wattles, say The Science of Being Well. Phenomenal. I pretty much agree with everything in it. But one of the things in there that it said was, your body will tell you what you need. And I was like, yeah, it sounds good. Other than I put so much crap in my body that there's no way it's going to tell me what I need. But I'd like to get to that point where that is true. And 8 years later, that's where I was. But it wasn't like I'm going to change this tomorrow, because at the time I was drinking a 12-pack of soda a day, eating anything that was in front of me, quick foods, fast foods. And if you go in the gas station and pick up anything outside of water, which even the BP's off the plastic in the water isn't that great for you, but anything else in the gas station, guaranteed shit. Like it's not your prime, like it's not a good source. I don't care what you think it is, but even trying to find like a decent jerky, it's still going to have stuff in it. Now, maybe you need that and it is what it is. So you're just going to have to do what you got to do. But most of the time, people are screwing up their intermittent fasting by putting some trash in their face during the eating window, or snacking, or not understanding how their body works. And so if you're doing it and you're not getting the result, then you need to look at and start figuring out what's going on, because it does work. But sometimes I have to go to a intermittent fasting stage, and then I have to flip it and go to no intermittent fasting, eating often and eating a lot. And sometimes I have to pretty much, if I want to put muscle mass on, I pretty much eat everything in front of me. Like, and then everybody else is in front of them. Like it's normal for me to go out to eat and order 2 full meals and just house those, and then probably finish whatever she has left. So,
and an appetizer,
and an appetizer, and sometimes dessert. That's a, like I think, well, we were at your brother's house and I had, the tacos, they're like this big, I ate 15 of them. That was a little much, but they just kept putting them on my plate. I was kind of done at 13, but he throws 2 more down, so I just eat them, and it's like, that's okay, whatever. Or
you beat the record.
Yeah. So, and then I've also, by like 5, and so there's also like, I've sat down and had like ribeyes and ate like 6 or 7 of them, with maybe a roll in there or something to, spike some insulin to eat more. But
so at the beginning of December, Mac came up with this idea as a group, for our group, that we would, all do a 72-hour fast. And why did you decide we would do that?
Well, there's a couple different pieces. One, there's the group that I was talking to. We just went through a detox. So in other words, we just pulled out all the like heavy metals, toxins, biotoxins, everything else through a specific system of first getting the gut working correctly. Because a lot of people will say they're detoxing or cleansing, and they're not. It's like, well, they are, but not to this degree. A lot of people be like, oh yeah, I've done a detox. No, you haven't. Not like this. Like you've essentially given your system a break, but you haven't gone into the brain and removed the stuff that's in the brain out, because that takes a very specific method. And so when people say, I've done a heavy metal cleanse, I'm just like, shut the fuck up.
Well, what you don't know until you know.
Yeah,
so we think we learn, and we grab these detoxes and these cleanses, and we think and I think it's really good, but there's, what you're talking about would probably be like, it's just the real deal.
The problem is that someone sold you a heavy metal cleanse, right? Like that's what you got sold on, without the understanding of that cleanse doesn't have the ability to go into the brain. All that cleanse can do that you did was help remove all the stuff that your body was already going to detox, right? Like the body knows how to detox. However, when the shit gets in the brain, the body doesn't remove that, because it becomes one with the brain. So the body will remove anything that's in the body, because the brain is the one running the show, and it will say like, oh yeah, this needs to go, this needs to go. It removes the toxins, everything else is to the best that it can. But in today's world, we're so over toxined that eventually it spills over, causes things like weight gaining, hormonal imbalances, autoimmune diseases, thyroid problems, like all these different things that are your normal medical conditions right now can actually be removed if you get the stuff that actually got up here out.
So our group did.
Yep. So they go through this. It's a 3-month process that we do. Well, 4-month, the way I do it. And so you get the guts working, then you detox the body, then you detox the brain. Okay. So we just ended the brain. We got done with that. So at this stage, then now we've removed a bunch of trash out of the system. And this gets into the reprogramming and like deprogramming and reprogramming of cells. So every cell in your body has what's called the cell membrane. It's like a fatty layer around the cell. And the cell membrane, science knows this, they can see it, they can't explain it, but it has its own consciousness. And in a sense, it's almost like its own soul. You're like every cell in your body has this thing that's happening that they can't explain. And this, in reference, and this is, I'm not going to give you scientific terms, I'm going to give you metaphorical examples. And so everybody knows, like, I've got this thing called the soul, this consciousness that I have that gives me freedom to choose and do different things and whatever. We can't really explain it, but we would attach the term soul to that, right? It's our soul. Then we've got the subconscious mind, which is a programmed fundamental protective mechanism that goes through life, listening to authority, dealing with emotional experiences, and it gets programmed in to where we show up a certain way. In other words, if somebody says a certain word, I get triggered, right? Like if somebody brings up your ex's name, trigger, somebody brings up a bad situation or a death of someone, trigger, all the way down to positive triggers, normal day-to-day triggers, your lifestyle triggers, like all of these things are happening. Well, all of that is essentially programmed into every cell membrane in your body. Every one of the however many billions, trillions, zillions, whatever it is, I don't know, but there's a lot, right? And every one of them are energetically connected and operating as one. Now, the signals of how fast the connections happen can depend on toxins and everything else as well. But let's just say, for purposes of like everything's pretty good, everything's running what it is, but these membranes have this programming in them. And so when you understand the law of attraction, it means how I vibrate is what I get. Okay, so we know that, and we can change our vibration, and we can change our lives, and we can change different things through action, through manifesting, through all these different things. But action, every action that you take, every commitment that you make, everything, whether it's broken or kept, is affecting every cell in your body. Right. So after we purified our bodies, then I'm like, okay, final stage of the detox is 72-hour minimum fast. Why? Okay, here's why. Because the stages your body goes through to use up energy goes from carbs, glucose, anything like that. Then it moves into your proteins or anything that's in your guts, in your system, to use for energy. Then it will typically go to start burning fats for energy, maybe some lean muscle mass. And then somewhere in that later window, some people will claim that it starts at like 16 hours. But I would not get that in my head, period, because the reality is that with our food standards today, you're not going to get that, because your body's dealing with too much stuff. And more likely you're going to start seeing the autophagy, is what it's called, where your body starts to eat the cells, like old, toxic, trashy cells. It starts to use them for energy and destroy them. And so you're killing off these not good, not running right cells, and you're using them for energy, and then your body begins to spit out brand new stem cells. Now, even though the stem cells and everything is still connected energetically in your body, think about it like this. You're taking some old programming that is manifesting your current reality, or has been in the past, right? Like these cells are programmed and they're getting old, and they're spitting out the shit that you're dealing with today. And you want more out of life. You want to be happy in your relationship. You want more money. You want a more fit body, or better or higher energy, or whatever. And you're saying, this is who I am today. You're going to war. You're slaughtering those cells, right? Like getting rid of them. So that programming is getting eliminated. And then you're getting these brand new cells that are like warriors, that are fresh and ready to go to work. And so now these cells in current time can be programmed without the toxic input. If you've gone through a detox, if you haven't gone through a detox, it still doesn't matter. You're still getting the effects, right? So as you're doing that, you're gaining new real estate to now program yourself and your vibration inside of, which means your ability to manifest better, greater results speeds up, right? Plus you get all the other benefits, everything else with it. And um, as you kind of break past that 70-hour-ish window, now you're getting into the realm of actually convincing your body to produce more HGH, human growth hormone. So when people are getting old and they're dying, right? But you get your body to pop out new stem cells and then human growth hormone, you're actually going to begin growing again. So it's a very effective recovery thing. It's how to stay younger. It's how to build muscle, keep muscle, maintain, look better. All those things, even down to like your eyesight can be improved. Your hearing can be improved. A lot of stuff that people believe can't be improved actually gets improved. And excuse me, if you have good objectives around this, then it will help you get it done. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say, I like how you said, like, at the beginning of all this, I remember you said, when you have your cell phone and your cell phone isn't working properly, a lot of us will, turn our phone off and then turn it back on and kind of do like a quick reset. So that quick on and off is like doing a 24-hour fast.
Yeah,
It's just a quick intermittent, on and off, where doing a 70+ hour fast is like turning your phone off, but factory resetting your phone and then turning it back on.
Updating the hardware, the software, everything else, and now all the new applications, new tech, everything else now functions.
So a 24-hour fast is like a quick of the cell phone just reset. On and off, where a 70+hour fast is like a whole factory reset on your phone, turning it back on and starting fresh, so you could program it with all new apps and and it runs faster and better. And so that's the difference between the two, right? I liked when you said that to me. I thought that was cool.
Yeah, it's a good metaphor for kind of like what's happening. And if you do something like this detox that I do, then it's like, even that would be the extent of really being able to go in, wipe everything clean, start fresh, begin programming, and then resetting through the fasting and everything else through that as well. So
because I feel like what we talk about all the time and what we do and how we live our lives is always just trying to raise our energy to manifest.
Yeah,
we talk about that a lot. Why? Okay, so we got all that. How often, like, I know, so we did our 72 hour, I did 72, like 72 to 75 hours, but how often do you think we should do a longer fast like that?
Should or will? That's a question.
Because I was thinking, like, okay, so I will say the first day that we started, so I started at like 8 p.m. And by the next day, when I was getting a little hungry, my first thoughts were kind of like, what did I agree to? Like, I'm a little like, what is it? Like, why? Like, Mac is crazy. This is crazy. It was my first time. And then the second day, when I was still going, I was like, okay, like, this isn't so bad. I was starting to feel a little bit more energy. And I was still getting like hungry on and off, but overall, like, I was feeling good. And by day 3, I was like, oh, that was easy. Like, we should do this every month. So I was thinking at least once a quarter.
Yeah,
for us, maybe once a month, but definitely once a quarter. And so I have a question about fasting and like biblically. What do they say in the Bible about fasting? Just real quick.
Which part?
I don't know. Just tell me something good.
Okay. Well, so we'll do the Bible reference, and if you observe like how things are done, so like if you like to meditate, think about being able to fast and pray and meditate, as in like that's going to get you your highest level results. right there, because one, you don't have the distractions of what's happening here. And two, it's a commitment of saying, this is where my focus is. And even when it comes to manifesting, if when you're fasting, you won't make it if you don't have a reason why. Like if you don't have an objective of what you're going to get done or how you're going to do it, then you're going to go a little while. The impulses are going to come in, and then you're going to justify a way out. That's typically how it works. Now, somebody that could probably do it just out of like sheer willpower, being like, I'm going to prove that I can do it, and it's like, and then your objective is to prove that you did it, and you will manifest that. But for me, it's more like, no, I'm doing this for multiple reasons. One, to get closer to God. Two, to have a better relationship between us, which means also, I'm doing it for my body, so that my body has higher energy, so I can produce more in my business. I can produce more in my relationship. I am vibrationally in tune with God better, and I just feel good and look good. So I have those objectives there, but usually I'll have like one major thing where I'm like, this is what I really want to have happen. Now it could be money. It could be like, I have a problem here. I don't know what to do, and I want God's help to help me solve it. So if I'm that intentional to say, hey, I've got a financial thing, a deal that I want to go through, or maybe a disaster that I need dealt with or handled. And so I'm going to ask God, I'm going to pray about it, I'm going to fast. Now, law of attraction. What happens when I begin to fast is, first day I'm struggling, because I'm hungry. Your body's going to kick in the ghrelin in your stomach to say you need to eat, and you have to deny it. So what you're doing is you're sacrificing, right? When you sacrifice, you're making a statement to the universe, right? Like I am focused, I am committed, I am doing this. Also, it causes you to think about it often, and you're not thinking about starving or being fasting or anything else. You're thinking about the objective of that you want. I want this money. Now, it's not just I want a pile of money. It's like I want this money so I can do this, right? And so one of the biggest things is like you have to have that desire clearly defined. That's not some bullshit superficial stuff, otherwise it doesn't work, or at least doesn't work as effectively. But if I'm like, no, like I want this money so that then I can do this, I can and for me it would be like going to the extent of saying, you know what, I want my investments to pay me in such a way that I no longer need the money. Like it's just like I always have the money, and then I can really focus in on like the training on how I want to help people. Plus I can have some fun over here in recreation. Plus I can spend time with her and my like our family and building that, and travel. And so I'm thinking about all these different things, but I'm putting the attention kind of on more on one spot that says like, show me what I need to know here. Even like when we like we're going to get married, there were still some things there where I think I fasted for over a day. I can't remember. I think it was 40 hours or something that I went. And it kind of just happened, and then I realized what I was like what I did, and then I saw the answers starting to get revealed. And so as I'm in creating this intense focus, like law of attraction, and Earl Nightingale made this famous where he said, you become what you think about most of the time. And that is true. So if you're fasting, you're sacrificing. One of the other terms we use is like, are you teachable? And are you teachable is one thing. It's like anybody can say, yes, I'm teachable. But really, when it comes down to it, it's like, okay, then what are you willing to give up? If you're willing to learn, what are you willing to give up? And often when it comes to that, it's like money. Because everybody wants a coach. Everybody, like we have these people that come around, and we talked about it before, but these people come around like, hey, like I want to coach with you and blah, blah. Okay, it's this much, gone. It's like, you're not teachable. Okay, like that's the qualifier that lets me know I'm not wasting my time. And every once in a while, I help somebody and they don't waste my time, and they use it, and it's cheaper, or I work with them or whatever. But typically it's like, here's your qualification to know whether or not you're teachable. Here it is. Now, when it comes to fasting and telling the universe, what do I want? If you can't create enough intensity of a desire to say no to some shit food, to give yourself, like there's no loss. So understand that. It says, I want to manifest this. Okay, great. Do a 5-day fast. Are you crazy? I thought you said you wanted it. Like, so in a way, it's a really good way to find out whether or not you truly want something or not, or whether you're bullshitting yourself. Because if you're willing to do a 5-day fast to get the full effects of all the stages of the autophagy, to get rid of the old cells and then get the human growth hormone, and you can think about this stuff a little bit naturally on like when the body doesn't eat for 3 days, it starts to say, there's something strange going on here, and this bum isn't producing in a way to get fed. So we got to change something. So the body begins to do the changing for you automatically. And then as it changes and you begin to change, you're reorganizing the energy. And then it's like, oh, well, I should do something. And then you're still not doing something on day 4 and day 5. And then it's like, human growth hormone, let's get to work. You need to go hunt and get some food. And so granted, we're not doing that in our day and age, but if it's like, I want to solve a problem in my relationship, I want to get this money or whatever, that begins to strip away the problems, focus on the clarity, change your vibration, your frequency, and manifest a different result. So it's a very, very effective way. And if you read the Bible, you read how like Paul, I think it was usually Paul or Peter, maybe it was Peter, I can't remember. They both start with a P. So, but it'd be like, it would talk about how he got on the roof and fasted and prayed and meditated. And then he would get like revelations or whatever, or answers or communication in some sort that said, I need to go do this. And then they would do these crazy things that sound crazy to us, but look how intentional they were, and look how much time they spent. And even when it comes to Jesus, how often did he preach and do everything else, and then he would leave? I can guarantee you that he wasn't leaving and not doing some of this type of behavior, as far as letting things go, even to the point of when he knew it was time to end, like that everything was going to end, that he needed to purify himself, that he needed to overcome all the worldly things and purge all the toxins and the poisons, right? Which was like the sins of the world. They said he bled from every pore, right? And he fasted for 40 days and 40 nights. Why? Purification of the body. Okay, like he's about to be resurrected. You don't want to try to do that with all the shit in your system. It was like, no, it needed to go through fasting and prayer, and be very clear to know the objective, to manifest the conclusion of his purpose on earth. So very, very specific in inside of that. And so that's kind of the more biblical side of it. But really, it's I keep it simpler, other than I know that when I'm doing something like this in alignment with God, it's certainly going to be way more powerful and way more beneficial for me. But I'm still like going, what do I want to achieve on this round? Like what is my
What's
actual
the
desire?
intention or the intention?
Yeah. And one of them for me was to help all the people that I'm coaching to kick them up a notch, right? Like to have them level up a little further, and then they go through it, and it's become almost a little bit like a walking on fire experience, because everybody's like, oh shit, I did it. Like to get all pumped and stoked about it, like this was cool, I'm going to do this again. And it's like, yeah, it wasn't that hard. However, one of the things I told them that I made very clear is, if you don't have a strong desire to do this, you won't finish. Like it won't work. You have to be determined. You have to be prepared to go to war with yourself. You like to legit be like, no, you can kiss my ass. Like you have this, the right shoulder, left shoulder going on in each ear, and you have to be committed. I also talk to people about setting yourself up to if need be, distract yourself from it. So like do busy work if you need to. The first time I did it, like this last time, actually was like super easy compared to the first time. The first time I did it, I had so much brain fog. I was like, I couldn't focus. I got to the point, and I run a business and I have to go, and I had to just go, okay, what is the very next step I have to do? One thing. Okay, go do that. I would get that done. I would go sit down. I'd be tired. Be like, okay, what's the next thing I got to do? And I was like that for 3 days, to the point where I'm like, okay, screw it. This isn't working. like I'm done. But I kind of randomly started. I didn't prepare for it. And I just kind of like ran out of food and was too lazy to go to the store and was like, screw it. I've been thinking about this anyway. So I just did it. But then like 70 or pushing 70 hours in, I'm like, I'm not doing well. Like I got to get some work done. I got to do something. And so I was like, well, I'm almost 72 hours. It is what it is. I'm going to go get some food. So I go to the store, I'm buying a bunch of food, got a shopping cart full of food, and like 70 hours. And it's like somebody flipped a light switch like that. And my mind went clear. And I was like, what the heck? Like I'm in the store, no more brain fog like that. I don't know how it happened. I don't know what happened, but it was insane. It was crazy how it went. And so I was like, oh, this isn't so bad. Now I would get hunger. It's kept me from sleeping a lot. Like I was averaging 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night, but it was enough. So I just get up early. Like after I dip, like wake up, like, okay, screw it. I would get up, I'd just go to work. I kept myself busy. And that time I went for 105 hours. And then I woke up one morning kind of feeling like, oh, this doesn't like something doesn't feel right. So then I decided, yeah, I'm gonna work my way out of this. When you break a fast, you also need to understand there's ways to break it and ways not to break it. Um, like it just you don't go back to eating the way you did before, otherwise you're gonna pay for it. So you just kind of work into it with smaller portions, but easily digestible foods are better. And you can find a lot of information on that. But the fair warning, don't go into this winging it. Go into it with a direct intention, with a strong desire, with the idea that I might have to go to war with myself. In other words, my worst impulses could come out, especially if those cells are programmed with addictive type things. They are going to like scream and yell and try to drag you down, like try because they're trying to save themselves. Okay, so they're going to fight you, and you have to understand that. And as long as you have a plan, and as long as you're committed and willing to do it, and understand that, like, I know people that have gone months without food, with just water, and I know some people that have gone weeks without even water, and they live. So anything you've been told about this stuff is all false. But you typically, um, don't be stupid if you have medical conditions. Like, be smart. I don't know. That's about. Is there anything else?
That was so good as always.
Yeah, I'm trying to think if there's um much of anything else. You know what?
Mm.
One of the things that inspired me to do this was I read a book called Weightlifting is a Waste of Time. It's not necessarily about weightlifting and being a waste of time, but it's about, it really defines how your body works and different things. And it's like, just going in a gym thinking you're going to get results is kind of foolish unless you're 20 years old and your body works good enough that you can probably pull off anything. It's understanding that there is a much more effective way to get the results you're looking for in so much less time. Because when you can trick your body, it's not really trick, but it kind of is, trick your body into producing HGH. That's essentially like a steroid. Okay, so like, people that would rather inject it than do it naturally, like, why not just do it naturally? Because now your vibration is going to be high. You're not killing yourself or screwing with your system. It's going to produce what it needs to. Probably need to supplement with nutritional type things because our food is trash. But you'll be amazed at how like, you'll typically fasting, you'll go through the struggle of like the food type of thing, but in the other times you'll be calm and you'll be clear, and everything just seems easy. And
I felt that.
it's like, this is so weird, so crazy.
Mhm.
It's like this different thing. And those are the times when you get to really, like, kind of focus in on your desire, knowing that now that vibrational frequency that you're broadcasting is being purified. There's no resistance in it blocking the things, because typically it's easy to put out impulses and things, right? A lot of people put out false, like, they put out counter intention, so they kind of screw themselves there. But the typical challenge is that when somebody puts out a frequency to manifest, they actually block it with resistance. Like, they have resistors that's come into play. But when you're fasting and you become clear, those begin to drop and fade away, and you become content, calm. And that's when you watch things happen very, very rapidly. Anything else
No, that was really good. I think you Nailed it.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
one of the, I would just reinforce the one of the cool things about what I do and we do is the detox program, is actually being able to go through that, especially with things like the the thing going on lately. Like if you've been one of those people that has got the stuff, this is a way to get it out, get the crap that they put in back out. It may not reverse, I don't know if it will or not, some of the other stuffs, but one thing can be sure is if you do the best you can to clear the toxins, get them out, and then you do the fast to kill off the old cells, there's a good chance that you can kind of reverse some of the damage that stuff is doing. And you also need to keep in mind that whether or not you did, the stuff is still in our system, and it can be passed. It can, like whether it's in the water system, whether it's wherever, there, and then getting all the way down to the BPs and the plastics, like we still, I'm not going to not use convenience. I'm just going to operate as high as I can with what I have. And then as I can, I will eventually get to the point where my objective is to get to the point where I don't use anything plastic that's then going to go in my body. Nothing of that sort, like glass or whatever, medical grade stainless or something. But in the beginning, you might be, like I came from poverty, like not poverty, but essentially for the US. And so it was the cheapest food, cheapest clothes, cheapest this, and really it's just all toxic. It's very, very toxic outside of getting lucky on a few places. Luckily for me, back in the 80s and 90s, it was the food quality was at least a little better than it is today. So had some of that. But on the other side, like today, it's just, the majority is just absolute trash. So start where you can. This isn't about saying you have to change everything. It's just like, what if you were to just eliminate one thing and then take a step further and then do another thing, and looking at it and saying, okay, well, bread doesn't serve me. In fact, it just uses my energy up. Outside of serving my taste buds, it's pretty much useless. So what if I just got that out? Or grains, or here's one for you. If you have breakfast, like, unless you're actually waking up hungry, which means you went to sleep without enough fuel, don't eat, and do not eat cereal. It's like garbage. The milk is garbage. The cereals are all grains. They're hard to process. They're just going to wear you out through the day. The only thing they're feeding is your addiction. That's it. If you got coffee, get good organic coffee and put something like grass-fed butter in it with some stevia. Like change up the way you do things. One thing I recently saw was like the toxins that are coming out of the cups. The paper cups are lined with a plastic. That plastic is very toxic for your cells, causes them to do crazy shit. And it's like, well, it makes sense, but shit. Now I got to find a better solution
I
for that.
feel like we've not had a hot drinks from Starbucks since you saw that.
Yeah,
Is that true?
I think so.
Did we have a cold drink at Starbucks when we sat there the other day? Did you get a drink there?
No, I didn't.
I didn't either, actually.
Yeah, so
But I don't think we've had a hot drink from Starbucks since.
Yeah, so like get your like stainless cups if you're gonna do that. It would be preferred. It doesn't mean I won't have one, but I do understand what's happening, and it's not beneficial.
There's a lot you can do. You can, switch your makeup, get different laundry detergent, cleaners for your home.
Yeah, if you can smell chlorine in your tap water, get like a shower filter, because don't drink water out of it for sure, but use at least filter that. But get like a charcoal filter, because the reality is more chlorine will go in through your skin pores on hot water than it could if you were to drink it anyway. Like your gut knows how to process stuff like that, but it goes in your skin. And if you were to take like the cleanser, like the stuff that we use for the detox, if you were to take it to trap the molecules without the raw process going through it, like if you took enough, it would try and purge out of your skin. You'd wind up with a rash because your body's like, oh, get rid of this, and try to purge it out. But a lot of people just are unaware of why you should be looking for organic, and all organics aren't really organic. And like there's just a lot of stuff. You can't worry about it. You just got to work one thing at a time. But if you don't have a good reason, such as I want to manifest something big. Well, if I don't have a desire for anything different, then I'm not going to change my lifestyle. But when I get the desire to say, like, I want more, I actually want a good relationship. I want to make more money. Like I want to vibrate it in a way that gets me all these things that I see are available to me. Then it gives me the will to like go after it and change who I am and do different things. Like, and one of the biggest things, like guys, like when it comes to the food, it's a lot of it is designed with estrogen or to block testosterone, which means your sex drive is going to go down. Like you're not going to perform in the same way. You're going to be more addicted to other things that you shouldn't be addicted to. Just a lot of problems. Whereas like, or you can clean up your shit and be more fueled like a 20-year-old. Like so you got to keep things in mind. It's a direct relation, and there's a lot of manipulation in our food system and everything else to actually get men sedated and try and like kind of push women up. And one of the biggest methods to controlling people is what you put in their food, because if you can get their energy down, their vibration down, they're easy to control. They get caught up in their own shit. They don't speak out. They conform easily, like all this crazy stuff. So but if you don't have a desire to actually have more or do something greater, or like, and kind of be aligned with God, in my opinion, then you will just be like one of the people that talks about conspiracies and does nothing about it, and you just bitch about it, and now you're just part of the problem. And so, I mean, don't do that. Like it's a challenge to break free from this type of behavior, and it only comes through a strong desire of saying, I've had it. I'm not playing this game. I'm going to go do this, and it's completely within your power to do it. Even if you're like, oh, easy for you to say. No, it wasn't easy for me to say. Again, I told you, I came from nothing. Like, grew up in a trailer house in the middle of Wyoming and like out in the country, no money. I worked for shit. I did things. I was addicted to smoking, drinking, soda, like sugar like crazy. Sugar for me is better than crack. Like, and I had to give that up and figure out, oh, I actually feel a lot better. Oh, I can actually do more not having this stuff. Oh, I can do this, to the point of being friends with multimillionaires, even some billionaires, and doing this and figuring out what they're doing, whatever, but good people, not people that are manipulative, people that want to help more people, and becoming a part of service and getting closer to God and having an amazing relationship, and like all these things that I'm very driven to get. But that's why I've been able to make these changes. So it's a strong suggestion that don't just jump in because it's a fad. Focus on the desire first, make the decision, and just persevere. Just keep going at it. And while you're fasting, that's one of the key things: persevere. Focus on your goal, persevere. Focus on your goal, persevere. And that will manifest you some stuff that you may not even understand what it is yet, but you'll see it come to fruition. Since I did the detox and then did my first fast, that was kind of the beginning of like the bottom of my past relationship. And then it started to fix it. Then it eliminated it. Then I wound up here. Right. So this all started for me when I gave up and said, okay, I'm screwing this up. I turned to God and I said, your turn, do what you got to do. And this is what the path I was led down that solved a bunch of my problems. Warrior Week was one of the things that solved one of the big ones was the porn and masturbation. But that, I think a key piece of that was actually cutting out the sugars. Sugars will drive you to that type of behavior. I don't know how, but I can tell that it works that way. So keep that in mind as you're going through things to do this. And don't think that this is going to happen overnight. I didn't get here overnight. This has been a 12-year process since the first time I kind of started to wake up to being like, that's why people should do organic. Okay. Because I was a person that was like, yeah, fuck you. I'll drink my Mountain Dew and do this. And I'll keep like, I could run circles around everybody. And then I was like, oh, wait a minute. I do want more. Why should I listen? And then I started listening and okay. So then I started doing, and then I got more, and then I got more, and then I got more. And I just keep getting more because I keep raising this bar. So.
And I appreciate what you do.
Yeah, I appreciate you too, and your support.
Mm-hmm.
And so, okay, well, I don't know if there's any, I mean, I could talk more, but
No, I think that was just really great. I
hopefully,
could listen to this over and over
yeah,
again.
hopefully it gives you some motivation or some questions
It
or to the
does.
point of reaching out to say like, hey, I've tried some stuff, but I don't know, it doesn't work or this or that or whatever. Or maybe you're like, sounds great, let's do it. Whatever it is, I'm probably going to do another detox soon. So if that's something that you're interested in, make sure you're plugged in so you can find out when and how and what's going on. Yeah. So I'm just going to leave it at that. You didn't talk much this time.
No, I know there was a lot going on in my head, but and I think I asked you some of the questions I had in my head, but you just always, are just the way you communicate everything that I'm thinking is just so great sometimes. I'm
You
just
just
like,
manifest me saying it. Yeah.
uh-huh. It's really good. So,
Awesome.
yep,
All right.
I love it.
Okay. We will see you guys next time. Have a
Bye.
wonderful day.